I
Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I am BA along here with Jack Hirsch. James is off for today, so it's just going to be me and Jack going at it on these debate questions. First of all, let's just congratulate the New York Knicks for winning their NBA championship for the first in 53 years. And, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes for the NHL Stanley Cup. Just a brief note on that because from Saturday to Saturday, that's what happened in the world of sports.
Yeah, and I watched the whole hockey game with the Hurricanes beating Las Vegas Golden Knights. And first time in 20 years, Hurricanes, Stanley Cup champions. You know, we keep talking about droughts, Brian, and I actually have on a New York Rangers shirt, if you could see from here, New York Rangers. But when they won it in 1994, it broke a 44-year drought. And people were talking about the long drought is over. But then in the blink of an eye, 32 more years have gone by and they haven't won it. So they might actually ultimately exceed the 44 years. And if they hadn't won that championship, can you imagine we would have been adding on 33 years to the 44 years? So we'd be talking in terms of 77 years without a championship. But then again, you being a Detroit Lion guy, you haven't even gone to a
I don't even hear about droughts.
Who are you to talk, Ryan, about droughts?
Right. I mean, the Lions would probably have, besides Cleveland and I didn't even count in Houston, and because Houston hasn't been in the league that long as a franchise, and neither has Jacksonville.
Houston Oilers in the AFL.
I mean, now they're the Tennessee Titans now, but the point being is, so I just it's Detroit. I can't. You're hilarious about how many of your droughts are.
That's what gets me annoyed about people talking about championships. They're talking about, for example, when the Chiefs won a little bit of a run. Oh, will Patrick Mahomes catch up to Tom Brady with 7 Super Bowls? People are complete fools that it's so hard to win just 1 Super Bowl. And they're talking, oh, will he win 4 more Super Bowls? Get out of here, people. The odds right now, the odds are Patrick Mahomes won't go to another Super Bowl. The odds. Okay, maybe he will. Maybe his Chiefs will win a couple before all is said and done. I don't know. It depends how the team fills out going forward. Certainly, I don't see them going there this year again. But when you're on a run, you get spoiled. You really get spoiled. Like you think it's never going to end. It's going to be automatic. And Yankee fans about the worst because of tradition way back in the day, decades and decades ago. But the darn games have changed every sport in large part because of the playoff systems. Okay, it's so much harder to get to a championship because even if you have a better team during the regular season, your path to the championship is harder because there are more hoops to go through. People don't get that.
Well, I think it is this way too. There are franchises that build championship franchises. Right now, it's like Philadelphia, Kansas City in part, Buffalo. These are teams that can get into the championship, get into playoffs every year and have a chance to make those championship runs, kind of like New England. New England Patriots were one of those teams that could do that every year too, because of the pedigree of a team, not necessarily the individual players, but just the teams,
Brian, being in the mix. My Yankees have not had a losing season in over 30 years. Have not had a losing season. If only have winning seasons, they're in the mix year after year. I'm happy. They're doing things the right way. They might get bumped in the playoffs this year. And that's all people are going to look at. I mean,
I think that's what it is, too. It's because the Yankees have won World Series. And that's something that's a consistency, throughout the last 30 years that you mentioned. But with teams like, let's say Buffalo's been in the playoffs. They've been in the Super Bowl, but they've lost all of their Super Bowls.
1990.
But the point is, they've been in Super Bowls. I think that you have to really kind of just chop up of what you're seeing of these franchises, and not going by one particular player or going by. It's a team sport. When football is the ultimate team sport. So if you build a franchise where you have a team that's great on defense and great on offense, you don't have to be top 5 in any of those.
But we want to tell Knicks fans, Carolina Hurricane fans, enjoy these championships. You don't know when it'll come. Soak it in for lifetime. Soak it in for lifetime. If the Knicks are not good 6-7 years from now, I mean, don't live in the past, don't get me wrong, but let this championship stay with you. Stay with you for years. Don't think because, if the Knicks don't have a good team in a few years, this championship, it's a thing of the past. Who cares? It's an ancient relic. Take it in and take it in with pride, basically for lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. They can go another 53 years without winning a championship. And we'll be, whoever's here talking in our places will be like, 53 years ago they won. It's all the excitement for your franchise is that once you win a championship, you're always trying to rebuild to win another one. And that's the excitement about watching sports. If you have a team like that. But anyway, speaking of that, Jack, we did have the Knicks have celebration. Most of the old Knicks were there. Knicks within that 53-year period were there celebrating with the current New York Knicks on their championship. One of the things that you mentioned in this debate here, should Charles Oakley have been invited to attend the Knicks championship parade? I'm going to give that one to you because you're more oriented with the New York area and the players that are associated. What do you think? Should he been invited?
I would have liked to have seen a scenario where before the parade, peace could have been made, with James Dolan and Charles Oakley. Now, if there's a shoving match going on, and not physically, of course, between James Dolan, the Knick owner, and Charles Oakley, the beloved Knick player, who's going to win that shoving match with the public every time? It's going to be Oakley. They're not going to side with Dolan. They're going to side with Oakley. And no matter how Oakley acts, because Oakley performed for the Knick fans, he was a Knick favorite. They'd like to see him there. But the answer is no. Charles Barkley shouldn't have been invited to the parade, and he wasn't. This is a guy who's gone out of his way to berate James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks. I mean, it all started with him complaining about the Knicks doing this. If that's where it ended, and James Dolan, who does have thin skin, overly reacted, we could still side with Charles Oakley. But when you show up at a Knick game, and you start yelling at James Dolan, you start creating a scene, and they have to remove you. And they banned Oakley from the Garden for a little while, but then they removed the ban. He can come to any Knick game he wants. He's not banned. They're not giving him free tickets, but he can attend any Knick game he wants. But then Oakley is going out of his way to trash Patrick Ewing, the most popular, arguably the most popular living Knick player of all time, arguably. Okay. And Ewing was his teammate all the years. Ewing didn't respond back to Oakley. He took the high road. He never said anything bad about Charles Oakley. Oakley said we didn't win a championship because of Ewing. Ewing wasn't a leader. And then he went out of his way. He said Ewing's a really bad person. And he says, I wouldn't even take an apology from Ewing. This is during the playoffs. Then the Knicks win a championship. What are they supposed to do? Invite Oakley? And Oakley's an unpredictable guy. We don't know what his behavior is going to be. For all we know, he's going to come to the parade and start bad mouthing, James Dolan there. Maybe he's going to create a scene there. And heck no. I mean, if Dolan wanted to try to patch things up beforehand and before the parade and said, Charles, let's talk. I would like you to be there. We'll work on our problems later. We'll sit down. We'll talk. Be there. But just promise me no incidents. Just wave to the crowd. Take it in. You're part of the alumni. That would have been bigger, James Dolan. But he doesn't have to be big in that way. Charles Oakley said Dolan ran a slave plantation. Can you imagine that, Brian? I mean, you're the producer. Could you imagine me making a remark, something about you that way, like we get in an argument, and then I was popular on the network or here, at least I still am, I hope, for a while. And then you were having a big celebration because we were number one in the ratings, a big party, the whole thing. And I'd like to be invited back at that point. And you figure, heck no, you're calling me a plantation owner, whatever. I don't want you there. You have your right, absolutely. Should he have been invited to attend the Knick Championship parade? My feeling is if Dolan was okay with him being there, yes, but the answer is no. The answer is no. And Oakley did it to himself. He went way overboard. And the last thing, as I said, when you would start attacking Patrick Ewing, because Patrick Ewing didn't side with Oakley against Dolan, that was going a bit too far by Charles Oakley.
Well, I'm gonna flip this. While you have valid points of why Charles Oakley should not have been invited, I think he should have, and I think they should have buried the hatchet on him because when you're a winner, when you're celebrating a championship, your emotions are kind of different. I mean, you saw Patrick Ewing in this whole situation. He was just elated about this whole, about the Knicks winning the championship. And he's been, he's got, I guess you could recognize him as one of the greatest Knick players. I don't know how you feel about that, but he's one of the, at least in my era of time watching.
He's the greatest Knick player of all time, Patrick Ewing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to look at that. And then the fact that Charles Oakley probably would have calmed himself down now that they win a championship. Maybe what he's doing is out of frustration because they haven't won a championship in 53 years before they actually won. And his frustration was coming out and he wanted his team to do better. And he didn't go about the greatest way. You know what I'm saying? Some people don't know how to react to what their feelings are towards something. Now, Charles Oakley has been one of those mainstay New York Knicks players that have wanted this team to do good for a long time, and it hasn't happened. So his outpouring reaction is going to go toward Dolan because of that whole situation. And he's a frustrated fan. He's the fan that everybody else is not. He's seen it firsthand because he's a player, but at the same time, he's a fan too. He has pride in the Knicks, and he wants to say, hey, you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to do. I'm not saying he handled it great. I'm not saying he handled any of that great. And then when you go off on one of the greatest Knicks players of all time, that doesn't help your cause either. But winning solves a lot of stuff. If they would have had invited him in there, he probably would have just chilled out. I don't think he would have went off on anybody because this is a time of celebration. I think he knows better than that. And I think Dolan should have extended the olive branch to him and said, hey, you can come here. Let's not even talk about what you have said in the past about me, what you said about Patrick Ewing. We are here to celebrate a Knicks championship. Let's do that and just let bygones be bygones. But if the next day he can step down line, but it'll be the next day. You know what I'm saying? It's the next day. So then you can put him off to the side again if he starts acting stupid. But I think Oakley was there. He's being a fan. He said some things he probably shouldn't have said because of his frustration.
Like that James Dolan's a plantation owner. That's more than criticizing the team. Now you're getting personal. He was getting personal. Okay. And well, actually, Elizabeth, I'm a Nick Ruda. I'm not a Nick. Elizabeth puts down congratulations to Jack.
Yeah, he's a Brooklyn Nets fan.
And I'm a Nick Rude. I've always rooted for the Knicks. Always. But technically, I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, a little more so. You know?
Yeah, you're
I don't want to take credit what's not New York, exactly. But the point is, you can't he got personal that way. And consider this, Brian. Look at all the former Knicks who were there. All of Oakley's contemporaries, his former teammates, they have a good relationship apparently with the Knick organization, and they get along with James Dolan. But James Dolan can be petty. I was reading about Celebrity Row for the celebrities to get their tickets. One of the things they can't do is criticize the team. So Dolan has thin skin. He's not an angel here. Don't get me wrong. Thin skin. One of the celebrities, I forgot his name, he called in for tickets and I told him how much he would cost. And he says, I normally get these for free. They said, yeah, that's before you criticize us for firing Thibodeau. Okay? Because he went public. But you want to know something? No pun intended, Brian, but that's the price you pay. If they're going to invite you as their guest, okay? If you're invited into a restaurant as a guest, to eat for free. You could always eat for free in this restaurant. You better not complain about the food. You eat the darn food. If you're not crazy about the food, don't eat that anymore. Keep it to yourself. But if you keep saying, this food, I don't like this, get out of here. We don't want you anymore. You pay the price.
And that's a very good point. I like that point that you made because food critics do that. They come into places and they have their food because that's their job. They critique the food of the place. And if a place gets a great review, whenever they see him or her, they're going to make sure that they eat for free until they put that bad article into the paper saying, well, this service has gone down, blah, blah, blah. And then they don't get anything for free anymore. No, you got to pay for that, buddy. So I got you. I like that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, Dolan, I think you see Elizabeth, I see, makes a point here. Did Charles Oakley deserve an invitation? My answer is yes. Wait, you think that he deserved it based on what he did as a player? Absolutely. He's the alumni, a big part of the alumni. Whether he would have accepted it is another matter. He 100% would have accepted it. Charles Oakley went to the last game in San Antonio to see the Knicks play. He watched the parade in Harlem, not that far from what actually took place. And Dolan, is he being petty? If you're called a slave plantation owner by Charles Barkley, amongst other things, I don't think you're being too petty. I don't think Dolan, who can be very petty, as I just pointed out, I don't think he was being petty at all in the Oakley case. Charles Oakley's a bully. I mean, how do you think Patrick Ewing would feel seeing Charles Oakley, who just ripped into him, saying Ewing's no leader, Ewing's a bad person. Oakley said that a few days before they won the championship, what a bad person Ewing is. And he said he would not accept an apology from Ewing. If Ewing apologized to him now, and why would Ewing apologize anyway? He says he wouldn't accept an apology from Ewing. What kind of mood is that going to have? I mean, give me a break. I mean, can you imagine a former top Yankee is all of a sudden before, a big parade, it starts ripping into Derek Jeter. Oh, what a terrible person Derek is, blah, blah, blah. Yankees are apt not to want to invite him, to have that guy there.
I mean, like I said, I see the point that you're making about him not being invited, but at the same time, I mean, like we alluded to before, how many times is your team going to win a championship? You know what I'm saying? And have everybody be part of that. And I think for that one day, for the parade or for whatever the case may be with the celebration, he should have been there because he is a New York Knicks fan and a New York Knicks player. I think that's
I agree.
I think everybody outside of that, outside of that though, what everybody's feelings toward Oakley is after that fact, they can still have, and he can still be refused things, and Dolan can still be petty toward him. But for that particular day, they should have said, hey, come for this particular day because this is a New York Knicks celebration, not a Dolan celebration, not a Patrick Ewing celebration, but a New York Knicks celebration. And you are part of the New York Knicks alumni. Please come.
Brian, let me just basically, so we don't beat it to death. You're eventually on your job, when you retire, is there a good chance you're going to have a retirement party?
Probably.
Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. Right. Let's say you do. They're throwing you this big bash. And there's one coworker you absolutely couldn't stand that made life miserable for you on the job the whole time. And they ask you, Brian, if so-and-so, would you like them to come to your party? There you go. That's James Dolan.
I mean,
I had a situation.
That's an individual. Well, that's an individual situation. That's not a company situation.
I got you. I agree. Let's sum it up. I do agree with you. I would have liked to have seen Oakley there. It would have been heartwarming had Dolan stepped up and called him up, say, Charles, why don't you come? We'll talk later. Let's get along. Have a great time at the parade. I want you there with the other alumni. This is not an apology to you, Charles. We'll sit down and talk later. I do want you there. I'm inviting you to come to the parade, and come there. That would have been heartwarming. But Dolan was also within his rights to say, no, I don't want you there. I mean, but I would have liked to have seen Oakley there as you. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next question that we're going to have here, which is another New York Knicks question, but this is a comparative debate here. What will ultimately be remembered more, David Tyree's helmet catch in the Super Bowl or OG's tip in to win the Game 4 of the NBA Game 4 of the NBA Finals? Let me start off. Let me be.
Thank you, because this is a tough one, Brian.
Now, the only thing that I can say for me personally, football, I like football more than I like basketball, but that's a personal thing. New York is different. Remember, we had this conversation about New York. If the Knicks won the championship, how much that would mean to the city of New York, because they're basically a basketball-oriented city. They're not really entrenched in football as much as they are basketball. So I think from the point that the city would probably say that OG's tip to win Game 4 would be more important than Dave's Tyree because of just how the people of the city are. But for me personally, I think David Tyree's helmet catch in Super Bowl is more important because they beat a team. Wasn't that was the game that they beat the team that was 16-0, right?
Well, they were
New England. Wasn't that the year that New England?
Right. Well, to deprive them from a perfect season.
Yeah. And let's face it, the Giants weren't the best team of the season. I think they squeaked their way into the playoffs, and they did a very good job. And that's another topic of debate we could have later. Who was a better quarterback, Eli Manning or Jalen Hurts? Because basically they kind of go in the same path. But that's a debate for another time.
That's another time debate. Yeah.
But I'm saying David Tyree's catch in the Super Bowl, because it's a Super Bowl. You're going against a team that's 16-0, and nobody thought that they could beat New England in that particular game. So this is different.
I'm not asking which game is more important, Brian. We're talking about one play here. One play, what is going to be remembered.
We're going
to remember the Giants upsetting the Patriots and depriving them of a perfect season. We're going to remember that a little more. I mean, because that's more historic. But the one play, the helmet catch, we refer to it as a helmet catch, meaning it was a famous play. And we're going to think of OG and Anunoby flying through the air like Superman and saving the day. You know how dramatic that was. I mean, maybe if the question was, what was more dramatic, the helmet catch or Anunoby going through the air? I mean, Anunoby was more dramatic how it took place, but what's going to be remembered more amongst those two plays?
And the difference here is that this is one game versus, a best out of 7 series. So I just don't, I can't give OG that. I love OG, don't get me wrong, but I just can't give him that credit for that being more important than David Tyree's helmet catch. It's fair what you're saying, but let's consider this. And I don't remember how many seconds were left on the clock. If David Tyree doesn't catch the ball, the Giants probably lose the game, probably. But was there enough time left to actually still score? That's the question. You hit another completion. You do have some time left. The Giants may have gotten a touchdown anyway. They may have gotten a touchdown anyway. Now, Anunoby, if he misses the tip, okay, they definitely lose the game the next. They definitely lose the game because there's only like 1.2 seconds left. It goes off the rim or whatever. Knicks don't score. So now the Knicks and the Spurs are 2 games apiece, meaning the Spurs survived the late Knick rally. Now they go to San Antonio for game 5. The Knicks are up 3-1. It's 2-2. San Antonio's a little less rattled. They're in a better frame of mind going into game 5 if it's 2-2. San Antonio maybe wins game 5. And even if they don't, the series is still going. It's either 3-2 San Antonio or 3-2 New York. Maybe the Knicks don't win the series. Okay? And the way Anunoby did it, that one play, the one play for Tyree is what he's going to be remembered for, the helmet catch. He's not going to be remembered for his career. But David Tyree is not going to be considered an exceptional player. He's not as high on a level in his sport as Anunoby is in his. Anunoby is going to be remembered as a legendary Knick the rest of his career. Tyree is going to be remembered for the helmet catch, but the reason Anunoby is going to be remembered as a legendary Knick is because of the tip-in. Because of the tip-in, that one play alone is going to make him a beloved Knick for the rest of his career. And if you need any example of that one tip-in, he made a phenomenal defensive play right before that to set it up. He saved the game with 2 plays. But people are going to forget about the block shot, at the end of the game, on De'Aaron Fox. They're going to forget that. That's because De'Aaron Fox was being an idiot. He could have just held on to the ball for 12 seconds and that would have won the game.
I don't think De'Aaron Fox did anything wrong for the simple reason he would have gotten fouled immediately. The time would have been on the clock. And if you missed one foul shot, you have a problem. You one foul shot. If you have a chance to go in for 2, take the 2 points. He didn't pull up and take a jump shot.
Even if he hit one shot, you're still going into overtime if they tied it up.
No,
I don't think that
2 points. They were up 1 point, San Antonio. Right. If he misses a shot,
they'd be up by 2.
Up 2 points, Knicks can still win it the same way.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be. Again, everything is proponent from what happened during that play set. Like, for instance, the catch, all right, there was 1:15 remaining in the game, and the Patriots are up. Remember on the previous play before that the helmet catch happened, Asante Samuel dropped what would have been a game-sealing interception, right?
Yeah.
So it's 3rd and 5 from the Giants' 44-yard line. This is kind of a desperate situation for the Giants to even win this game at this point because of what was going on during the game. Manning, eluded, and let's not give Tyree all the kudos for catching the ball as much as it took kudos for Manning to get away from that sack and to throw it to Tyree at that same time. So you got to look at that's why I say that David Tyree's helmet catch had a better impact than OG's tip to win, because there was more of a situation.
It did have more impact, but and no, I shouldn't have more. I mean, maybe it had more, but what's going to be remembered more by New York sports fans? And Nobe flying through the air, the helmet catch. A good question.
I still think David Tyree's helmet catch will get that, throughout time, because it's a Super Bowl, it's football, it's American football, regardless of what the people in New York feel about the whole situation. That aside, anybody looking in from the rest of the nation will probably put David Tyree's helmet catch higher than OG's tip in the win. That's how I feel. And I know you guys, like I said, you're a New Yorker. Whether you're a Nets fan or not, the point New Yorkers are more about the basketball than they are about the football. Although
I think with the Knicks.
Knicks,
something about this Knicks championship was the best championship New York could have gotten.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, we have World Cups right now. The United States has won their bracket, by the way, with their 2-0 defeat of Australia yesterday. They are 2-0 right now. They're going to a more difficult bracket coming up. But this is the question that Jack has posed for us to debate. If the United States wins the World Cup, will it exceed in popularity what the 1980 hockey team did in winning the gold medal at Lake Placid? Now, I'm gonna refer this over to you, Jack, because I'm interested to see what your answer is to this. But go ahead. Yeah.
Right now, most people would say no, but I'm going to say yes, because the equation is going to change going forward. And once the United States shows they have the potential to win it all, and they beat Australia yesterday, they're going to the knockout round next. And as the tournament goes along, the buzz is going to get greater and greater and greater. Remember one thing about the Olympics, it's 16 days. It's 16 days. Everything was packed into all of a sudden, okay? And we didn't have social media at the time. It was a big thing, the story of the 1980 United States Olympic hockey team. But I got news for you. 20 years before 1960, the United States did the same thing. So why did it get a bigger buzz in 1980? Because it was the Russians. And the United States had this semi-hostile relationship with the Russians, who are a threat to us nationwide, vice versa. So it's kind of like the United States against Russia. And Russia was an absolute powerhouse in hockey, and the United States were no hopers, yet we upset them. That was big. Nothing's ever going to take away from 1980 in Lake Placid. But as this tournament goes along, if the United States wins it, this is a worldwide tournament. All eyes are going to be on the United States. Every other country is going to be tuned into the United States playing soccer. The United States aren't supposed to be a force in soccer. Can you imagine what they're saying in countries who are not in it in the finals? Argentina, Italy, France, Germany. They're watching the United States playing for the World Cup Championship. It's going to be crazy. Overseas, servicemen everywhere. This is a world event. Hockey, when the United States played Russia, it wasn't quite a world event. There's nothing like the World Cup. But the reason we haven't had the buzz here in the United States with the men's team, because the men have never been a threat. The furthest they've ever gotten was to the quarterfinals a lot of years ago. And also some of these games being played, games being played on American soil as well. It'll be crazy off the charts. The more they win, it's gonna be a tidal wave. And when all is said and done, if the United States wins the gold medal, it's going to be just a crazy celebration. The pride of this nation is going to start kicking. And people who don't care about the World Cup tournament right now, Brian, are going to jump on the bandwagon along the way, even if they're not soccer fans. It's going to be such crazy news going on. And the players who we're not familiar with now, we're soon going to start becoming very familiar with. They're going to start becoming household names, if that happens. So even though we can't feel it now, if the United States does win the World Cup, it is going to exceed, believe it or not, what happened in Lake Placid with the hockey team.
I think the thing that I agree with you on is the time of both of these. This is more of a soccer induced time period that we live in, whereas it wasn't that way for the United States back in the 80s. And then you got to look at the Cold War in the 80s. Nobody thought that the Americans had a chance against the Soviets on the ice to win that in the Olympics. So you got to kind of look at both time frames too. That's the other thing. Did it change history? I mean, I think it's based on what the media perceived it to be. I think and I don't think it's going to change the future of World Cup hockey. I mean, World Cup soccer either if the United States wins. I think the importance of this team, because this team isn't even factored into winning this. In fact, people say they're going to fall flat in their face in the next round of the playoffs. So if they do exceed expectation and they go to a World Cup and win a World Cup, this will be more important because this team wasn't even supposed to be in the World Cup finals. Whereas you got to remember something too, that the United States, the Soviets were just a stop on the way to their championship gold. That it wasn't the gold winning game. It was, as a playoff.
Semis.
So I mean, it was just great because they got to beat a team. And again, Cold War period, the Soviets were a dominant hockey force in the Olympics. That's just that. But now you have a world platform where Spain, France, Brazil, these are all teams that are slated to win the finals based on odds, of course. But nobody's giving the U.S. Soccer team any chance to win in the World Cup. So if they do win it, I think this would be a big thing. I think you're right about that. I think this will be a bigger thing than the Miracle on Ice. I just think it is. I mean, nobody really pays attention to soccer in this country anyway, just like nobody really pays attention to hockey, period. So they're two sports that they have low fandom. I mean, people watch it obviously because they're still on TV, but I mean, again, I'm just going by from the perspective that the United States is coming from. Nobody expects them to win this World Cup. Nobody. I didn't see one person pick the United States to win the World Cup or even be in the challenge for the World Cup. So,
well, that's what would make it big off the charts that they actually won the whole tournament. All of a sudden, interest is going to pick up with every victory. It is going to pick up big time. Big time. Right now, we're in the early stages, in the knockout round. They might get eliminated, the United States. So the dream is going to end suddenly. But people are taking notice. People are kind of waiting and seeing. Let's see what the United States does. Nice start to get into the knockout round. It's like a heat, a preliminary heat. They go on to the next step. But with every step along the way, if they're in it, the interest is really going to pick up. I think you're going to have record viewership.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. Yeah, I think it'll be more popular than the 1980 hockey team it did if they wouldn't go into the World Cup final.
You want to hear something funny? One of my coworkers, a lot of years ago, in the it was during the World Cup where the United States got eliminated. The United States lost to Brazil. She was from Brazil. That's where she was born. But she was now in the United States, and the kids were grown up, and they were born in the United States. She's like cheering for Brazil, this and that. And I said, well, how can you do that? You know, you're United States citizen now. Your kids are here. They were born here in the United States. They've lived here their whole life. And you're like cheering for Brazil, so, you know, against your country here. You know, you sometimes kind of wonder. But then again, I got to give some slack. I'm a Yankee fan, and if I move to another state, you know, if I lived there like 25 years, would I shift to the team in that state? I mean, who knows?
I don't think. You know what? You're a rock solid guy when it comes to sports teams. Specifically, the fact that you were a Jets and a Nets fan. I think that your ties with the Yankees would never sever. That's like if I was to move.
That wouldn't. The Nets would. The Nets would. I'm not as strong on the Brooklyn Nets.
Right. There's something. Yeah, some things you would.
Balance. Exactly.
But considering the fact that if I move to Tennessee or something like that, you think I'm gonna be a Tennessee Titan fan? No, I'm gonna be a Detroit fan all the way through.
I got you. Okay. Good example. Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from that perspective. But you got to remember, she was from Brazil. Now, her kids are going to emulate her because she's from Brazil. That's the reason why she's cheering. So you kind of got to look at it that way, you know. Because do your kids cheer for the Yankees?
They're not actually. Two of them are really baseball fans. One of them, believe it or not, is more of a Met fan. And my grandson they affiliated him with the Mets because my son-in-law, you know, grew up being a Met fan.
Okay. See, well, there you go. Your kids can follow.
But they acknowledge I'm a lot smarter to be a Yankee fan. There's no arguing who's better. They concede superiority to the Yankees in every way, shape, or form. They don't argue with me about the merits of the Yankees. They say they're good. You're always going to have it good, you know, and compared to the Mets. Yeah.
You're exactly correct on that one. Yeah, it's like the reason why I like the University of Michigan. My mother went there, you know, for her time in college. I never went there personally. But because my mother is associated with the University of Michigan, I'm a Wolverine fan.
Yeah, okay.
It's a family thing. So, but anyway, moving on. I found this question to be interesting. Would it serve Mike Trout best if he demanded a trade from the Angels? Right now, Mike Trout has been placed on a 10-day injured list. Right now, he's on a 10-day injured list. I don't know if he best. I mean, Mike Trout is older now. I mean, really, if he goes to another team, is it going to make a difference? No, I don't think so. The dude's going to be injured on that team too. It seems like he gets an injury every, you know, because he's an older player. Come on, face it. He's on the downside of his career. He's still putting up pretty good numbers, but he's on the downside of his career. I don't understand why he would want to be. He's going to be a lifelong Angel. I don't see anybody else. I don't see that happen. Him being on another team. That's just my opinion. I just don't see him going to another team.
You know, I don't have Mike Trout's exact age in front of me. I would estimate, what is he, about 32? Look that up, Brian. I would estimate. I should have looked that up beforehand. That's my bad on that. But they really, whatever Mike Trout wants, 34, a little older than I thought. Okay, but sometimes older players perform. I'm going to give you an example. The Yankees have a former MVP on their team, Paul Goldschmidt, first baseman, okay? Paul Goldschmidt was clearly past his prime the last couple of years. Clearly. I was surprised after Paul Goldschmidt said at the end of last season, he's retiring. He's done. He was retired. He came out of retirement in the offseason, past his peak. The Yankees just wanted him as a backup first baseman. He was an insurance policy. He was getting a grand total of a one-year contract, $4.5 million. That's backup money. That's a utility player money for former league MVP and a guy who you can argue would be deserves consideration for the Hall of Fame. You could argue that is what I'm saying. And guess what? This year, that insurance policy is playing a lot. He's arguably the best player on the Yankees this year. He's tearing it up. He's the old Paul Goldschmidt. He's as good as the Paul Goldschmidt who was the MVP practically years ago. He's had a resurgence. It's fun to come into work if you're on the Yankees because it's always exciting. There's always a buzz. Mike Trout, he might be going stale there. The owner of the Angels, Artie Moreno, is done spending money on free agents. He's done trying to improve the team. Even Artie Moreno made a controversial statement in spring training. Most people come to the games not to see their team win, to just have a good time, to just hang out, and Artie Moreno's not necessarily wrong. I don't know. I mean, it sounds bad what he said. I'm against players chasing rings, but this wouldn't be chasing a ring per se. It's unpredictable what team could win in baseball, whatever. But if you're Mike Trout or any other worker, you want to go to a workplace that stimulates you, doesn't bore the heck out of you. It's such a terrible thing. It's so depressing to be in a work environment where the conditions are bad, day in, day out. And that's what you have with the Angels, bad conditions. They lose. The last time I looked, they were 16 games under 500. I don't know what they did last night. But they're bad. They're last place. They're not going to the playoffs once again. And Artie Moreno said if Mike Trout wants to get traded, they would try to accommodate him. If Mike Trout doesn't want to get traded, fine. He could finish his career with the Angels. They're giving Mike Trout that respect. Mike Trout, apparently, he's shown great character. He's going to be with the Angels as of now his whole career. And if that's what he wants, great for him. But Mike Trout is a New Jersey kid. If you could trade him to the Phillies, who are always in the mix, to go to the World Series because they're always in the mix to be a playoff team, or better yet, the Yankees. I mean, even the Mets have not so much this year for the time being, but even the Mets have this semblance of hope. I mean, trade him. If he could go there, play, it would be a dream of his to play for the Phillies. He's a New Jersey kid. His family's from there. They could see him play with the Yankees. Mm-hmm. I mean, do that. It would serve Mike Trout best, if he demanded a trade because he's in a barren wasteland with the Angels, unfortunately. It sounds good, Brian. Well, I played for one team my whole career. It sounds really, really good. But does anyone care? Listen, the great Yogi Berra, do you know he didn't play his whole career for the Yankees because he played but 9 at-bats with the Mets? 9 at-bats. Does that tarnish him? Technically, he's not a Yankee his whole career. So come on. Do we care that much?
If Trout goes to another team, obviously he's going to be an important bat in that team. So he's going to get more than nine chances to do anything on that team. So if he demanded a trade, I could see that. I just don't see him demanding a trade. I think he's happy is where he's at. Some people strive to win championships, and I think he's got to his point where he might have thought the Angels were going to do something in the past couple of years. And that's where, and like I said, Trout's still an amazing player at his age. I don't think he's as good a player, obviously, in his prime than he was in his prime. But I think some people are they're just happy of where they're at. It kind of like, I give it to like the Barry Sanders there. You're really good at your position. You're staying at one team. You could have went to another team. You could have went to another team and won a championship with them, but you decided not to. You decided to stick with your team. You put up all these numbers, but alas, your team didn't go to a Super Bowl. It's the same thing with Mike Trout. I think that he's fine where he's at. He's putting up the numbers. He's putting up Hall of Fame numbers. Obviously, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But I mean, he's content of where he's at. I would be surprised if he asked for a trade, to tell you the truth.
Well, it's up to him. Look, if he's happy there, he's content. He's enjoying his life. Used to being the Angels, doesn't want to go elsewhere. Would it serve his career better if he was on the Phillies and the Yankees? It would. It would serve his career better. But if he's happy, look, whatever Mike Trout wants to do is fine. And you don't have to demand the trade. You could sit down with the owner and say, look, I don't want to go anywhere else. If it could be the Phillies or the Yankees, you could trade me there. It's okay. If you could work out a deal, I'm fine with that, but I'm not demanding anything. I'm also good to be with the Angels. Something like that is fine. You're not threatening the team. You're saying, look, if we could sit down, let's have a discussion, what you want to do, what I want to do, but, and come to a meeting of the minds. Or do nothing, or just leave it alone and be an Angel the rest of your career.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the athlete too. If they're striving to be, they want to be in a chance to be in a championship team, and that's what their goal is. Then they'll make that stride. But if he's content where he's at, I wouldn't even think he.
But Brian, consider this factor too. Mike Trout, I think, he has a few more years left on his deal. A few more, I'm not sure, but let's say he is somewhat productive and he wants to play beyond this deal. Chances are the Angels might not sign him, or they might offer money so low in comparison to what he could get elsewhere that he does wind up playing a year or two at the end of his career for another team. And then he could think, well, why didn't I leave early? I wasn't going to be, as it turned out, I wasn't an Angel my whole career. I wanted to be one and circumstances didn't allow it. I mean, look at John Smoltz, Hall of Fame pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. He wound up pitching part of 1 year, something for the Boston Red Sox at the end of his career, because the Atlanta Braves was so darn cheap. They didn't value him being a career Brave. That's how low the Atlanta Braves were and how little value they had on that. Shame on them, by the way.
I'm trying to pull up his contract. He's under a 12-year, $426.5 million contract.
How many years was it?
Goes through running through the 2030 season with a no trade clause.
So 20
which can always be adjusted.
Okay, so after this year, 27, 28, 29, 30. So
4 years.
This year and 4 years after this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's with the Angel. But, so it would take him really to about the age close to 40, to age 40. And if he's producing at that point, he might still want to play a little while longer, a year or two or whatever. Depends on how he's producing, how healthy he could be or whatever. And right now, the Angels, I think, would be okay with getting rid of that contract. They're not forcing the issue. They have too much respect for Mike Trout to, force the issue. But it's what Mike Trout wants to do.
He's going to, I feel he's just going to be an Angel for life. I think he's going to play out his contract, bar any major injury, bar the fact that the team might just, depending on his performance as a baseball player, they might get rid of him. I still don't think, though, he's going to demand a trade anywhere. I think he's too late. He's later on in his career for that to happen, and I think he's just too content.
Well, you know what it is, too? If you look at sports iconic players late in their career when they can still help a team, that it's proven that they're better off going elsewhere. For example, if the Indianapolis Colts went in a position to draft Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning obviously would have continued as their quarterback and been a career Colt. He would have retired as an Indianapolis Colt. But guess what? In all probability, he doesn't get a second Super Bowl in all probability. Okay? Tom Brady, had he remained a Patriot the rest of his career till the bitter end, the odds are very strong he doesn't win another Super Bowl with the Patriots. Very strong. Okay, he does not. I repeat it. I remember once I'm talking to Mac, and Mac is again. I'm not saying Mac. That's crazy. He's not even close. The Patriots aren't even close to winning, and Brady's not going to propel them. And there's virtually no chance of that happening with those Patriot teams. But then again, early in someone's career, when they're in their prime, had LeBron never left the Cleveland Cavaliers to begin with, the Cavaliers obviously would have kept him all the years, and there wouldn't have been a dispute. He might not have won one championship with the Cavaliers, maybe, for the simple reason they wouldn't have been in a position to draft Kyrie Irving. So knowing how great LeBron is, I guess odds are they would have won one somewhere along the line. And these same people, Brian, like Charles Barkley, who were telling LeBron, oh, don't leave the Cavaliers. It's good to be with one team their whole career. You know what they would have said at the end of his career? Well, he only won one ring. He only won no rings. They would have criticized him. Let the player do what the heck he wants. Whatever a player wants to do, let them be free to do what they want, because if they can't perform at a top level anymore, teams get rid of them. Teams move on from them. So players are entitled to move on from teams.
I mean, bar the Tom Brady comparison, I think that if there's a player that wants to achieve that role of being on a championship team and playing for a Super Bowl, a World Series, or a Stanley Cup, anything like that, they want to move on to a team if that team is not doing what they're supposed to be doing to get that player to the championship format. That's why you see these players always shifting and talk about, I want to trade because this team isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing for me to reach the pinnacle I want to be in as a championship game. But a perfect example is Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford was on a team for 12 years. He played mostly all his career in Detroit. Detroit didn't get over any kind of hump because they weren't that kind of a franchise. He goes to L.A., and I've said this many times about this. I said Stafford's a great quarterback. He goes to a different team that has their stuff together. He's going to win a Super Bowl with them. Sure enough, he gets traded. He goes to L.A., wins a Super Bowl.
But consider this, Brian. Let's say Stafford never left the Lions. They built the same type of team. The Lion team that lost to the 49ers, who blew the halftime lead in the playoffs, maybe they win with Stafford. There's a good chance that Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff.
I'm putting it to you this way. It's that Stafford, the reason why we have the players that we have on Detroit right now is because of the trade with Stafford. Because we wouldn't have Jahmyr Gibbs, we wouldn't have J-Mo, we wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? So it's a kind of a balancing form where Detroit is trying to have some relevancy.
Brian,
Los Angeles is trying to win Super Bowl. So
very quick, Stafford goes into the Hall of Fame as a Lion or a Ram.
I believe if he wins one more Super Bowl with the Rams, he'll go in as a Ram.
Okay, that's a debatable question, maybe. Yeah, good.
But anyway, it's been good debates there, Jack. Unfortunately, we didn't have, of course, James with us, but that's all right. We'll have him on next Saturday. Hopefully, you have a good rest of your day, sir. And we'll see you with Keith and James, hopefully, tomorrow on the Sunday Morning Sports Podcast. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next Saturday.